Congratulations on your first show. That's got to feel good.
Thank you very much, James. I appreciate it. We're very excited. We got a sellout crowd here, 5,000 people, revved and ready to go.
So before we all judge him too harshly for what I'm about to show you, let's just remember that he's the man who built it all.
We bought it for $2 million, but burned another $44 million before the thing took off.
It was war. People think I swear a lot now. You should have heard me the first 3 years of this company.
The UFC is his baby. And talking about children in the red corner, Jake and his older brother Logan are YouTube superstars. They were deep into sports at a very young age and excelled at all kinds of physical competitions. They're what you'd refer to as natural athletes, and they took that competition to the next level in 2012 when the social media platform Vine was created. They started competing on who would get the most followers. In the following years, they both grew their followers on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If there's one thing you should keep in mind about Jake, is that he is a mastermind at getting clout. He knows what he's doing on social media. He knows how to get media coverage. He knows how to grow an audience and how to leverage it to its full potential.
We know what Jake's doing, like he's obviously a smart guy with social media.
And we'll get into why that represents a threat for the UFC. From 2010 to 2019, just as Jake Paul is growing on social media, Dana White is growing the UFC to records high. But there is one key player that doesn't benefit from that growth. The player at the very heart of this conflict, the fighter.
I got him shaking this ground breaking, I'm bad news. Found greatness, evaluating my last moves. This my purpose, I'm tasked to. This my religion, this is my art. So you winning is just a sad fluke. Pedal to metal, no saying goodbye to this pace. I'm not a V1, V2, I'm a V8. New and improved, turning every street to a clean slate. I beat a beat break each day without seeing break.
Now a quick disclaimer. So we're about to do a deep dive into numbers. Zuffa, the company that owned the UFC up until 2016, is a private company. That means they didn't need to disclose any financial information. And actually, I think they did their best not to keep it quiet.
Why are you not giving me a number?
Has been here for 16 years.
No, but you're
Because what I won't do is give you an inaccurate number.
Right.
Do your homework. Hey, if you're going to ask me that question, do your homework.
So what, like I'm a lawyer and you never ask a
No,
question?
you're
You don't know
a
the answer?
reporter.
I asked the
Oh,
question.
you are a
give the answer.
reporter.
No, but I'm more interested now in why you wouldn't give the number as opposed to what the number is.
If I had
because
the exact
the number that Lorenzo...
But if you're going to ask me that question as a reporter, you should have went out and looked that up. Because it's out there.
Luckily, I'm quite the detective. So what you're seeing here is the growth of the UFC from the moment Dana and the Fertittas purchased it in 2001 until 2020. The current company valuation, $9 to $10 billion.
What do you think it's worth now? Has anybody brought that up with you? Any economists within the promotion?
Probably 9 or 10.
Now, just a quick reminder, they paid $2 million for it. Now, you'd assume that the fighters would also benefit from such growth, right? The league owners would certainly lead you to believe that. They'll tell you that the total fighter pay went from $4.4 million in 2005 to $150 million in 2019. That's an increase of 34x. But that's a misleading number because during that time, the roster of the UFC also dramatically increased. If you have more fighters, of course, you're going to pay more in fighter pay. What you want to look at is average fighters pay and see how much flatter this graph is. Let me jog your memory. The average UFC fighter made $148K in 2020, but over a third of the fighters made less than $45,000, which is the average US household income. Is that really underpaid? Well, to give you an idea of how much a fighter is worth in and outside of the UFC, you can look at Conor McGregor because he made the jump from the UFC to boxing. His biggest payday in the UFC was $5 million. And when he fought Floyd Mayweather before that in boxing, he made $85 million. So what's his actual market value? We're just about to get to the nitty-gritty stuff by looking at the player's share of the league's revenue. Which percentage of what the league is making goes to the players? So in the NFL, for instance, that number is 48.8%. In the NBA, it's 49%. In Major League Baseball, 50%. Almost half of what the league makes goes to the players. In the UFC, it's 20%. And it dipped below that before.
Our numbers line up with sports our size.
What numbers did Lorenzo
Major League
put out?
Soccer, you know.
Out of all the sports, UFC fighters compared to how much the owners of the league get paid is the lowest.
Wow.
By I think I think it's around 20% is how much the fighters get, whereas in other sports it's like 45%.
Speak to me about this idea that basically you lock in fighter income at around 18% of gross profit, and a lot of other sports closer to 50%. And a lot of your fighters say, hey, we'd be happy for something more than 18%. Why can't we get it?
Yeah, that's been going on for 20 years too, and it'll be going on for the next 20 years.
On the other end, Dana's net worth has climbed to $500 million.
This guy's betting $7 million on blackjack, but his fighters are starting GoFundMe pages.
It's all a bunch of.
Those are big wig guys with a lot of power who are very greedy, and they will do anything to get to the top. They have gotten to the top, but they want more. They always want more. That's how these billionaire sharks are. They will kill and eat everyone in their path to put more money into their bank accounts.
Are you pissed yet? Because we're just getting started. Let's look at how fighters' pay is actually structured. So as a fighter, when you show up to a fight, you get what is called a show fee. You get that fee just for showing up. Win or lose, you get the show fee. If you win your fight, you get an additional 10K. So the loser gets 10K, the winner gets 20K. There is a possibility to make a post-fight bonus if your performance was worthy of it. Essentially, at the end of the fights, Dana and his team decide who gets a 50K bonus. Now keep in mind, this last 10 and 50K is only if you win and only if you get the bonus. If you lose the fight, you walk away with 10K. Finally, you get Reebok sponsorship money. That's $3,500. We need to discuss that.
Let the games begin. Anticipating the main event.
Back in the days before the Reebok deal, fighters were allowed to wear their own sponsors on their uniforms. Like their uniforms would display their sponsors when they would walk into the ring. That's actually how most of them dealt with having such a low pay. They would compensate with their sponsors. When the UFC made that deal with Reebok in 2015, a uniform policy came along with it, forbidding the fighters from displaying their own sponsors.
Fighters can't have independent sponsors when they walk into the cage now, and financially it seems to be a huge disaster for the fighter.
That deal cost UFC fighters on average 20 to 25K per fight, but for some of them it's much more than that. Vitor Belfort said that deal cost them millions. He said, we are pretty much living in slavery, we can't use our own sponsors, they are banned inside the octagon.
I don't like when I see fighters suffering financially. I don't like it.
One of the ways the UFC justifies treating their fighters like that is by saying that their fighters are independent contractors. They're not employees. They can then deprive them of benefits afforded to employees under state and federal laws.
We get into all this money shit and the stuff that's going on right now. Everybody acts like this is a f***ing career. This isn't a career. This is not a career. This is an opportunity.